Joining us right now is Dr. Shane Morris. Now, you are a gentleman with Hydropothecary. It's a licensed producer here in Canada based out of Quebec.
Correct.
Your history was involved in government for years and in terms of regulation and inspection. So my natural question is, how did you go from government into the private sector into cannabis?
Well, as you outlined, I was about 15 years in the federal government. I had started many years ago. I'm very old now at this point.
Yeah.
So I was doing Canadian Food Inspection Agency, so inspections, moved on to Agriculture Canada, and then moved into doing regulations and developing regulations. So it was an area that I have a natural interest in and that I've done a lot. So when the opportunity came to move into the cannabis space, which is brand new, the program at the time was the medical cannabis MMPR, so it was an opportunity for me to take what I've learned in a government perspective and apply it in literally a brand new program, and it was a real startup opportunity. So startup from a company perspective and a startup from a regulatory program perspective.
And a lot of people back home, they might not necessarily know how startup this industry initially was in the medical community. I mean, you had to work from the ground up to build this company into what will now become recreational.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We were truly a very small facility. We had a grow space of only 7,000 square foot. We had a very small packing facility and we had one vault. And so what we did is we 2015, that's when I joined, and they had just started their first harvest. And we actually had to build in new systems. And part of that building the systems was ensuring the quality levels. We met the bare minimum standards to get a license, but that was only to grow. To get a sales license, you had to meet a whole new set of standards, whether it's testing, whether it's tracking and traceability and security. So we literally had to build this from nothing in this small facility. That allowed us then to grow a little bit more, and now we're had a 50,000 square foot. We're currently building 300,000 square foot that should come online, and we just announced 1 million square foot.
Wow.
So that will bring us to 1.3 million square foot of grow space.
A lot of output. Now let's talk about the regulation a little bit, because basically what took place, I did a story a while ago in California. Now it's a legalized state. However, prior to that, 90% of the cannabis coming out of it was testing positive for, pesticides and fungicides that shouldn't be necessarily on anything but an ornamental edible plant or an apple, for instance. How important is the regulation to ensure quality?
It's critical.
Yeah.
We've seen whether it's in areas that is not regulated, like other jurisdictions, when there are no regulations, that people use products that could be problematic or unassessed for risk for humans. We even saw it in the LP space as well, when there was no requirement for testing pesticide. It was voluntary. So I think it's critical going forward that we actually build confidence in cannabis, because it's already stigmatized, and you don't want another disaster. So you've seen recently with the romaine lettuce or beef
outbreaks, recalls.
That will only turn people away from what needs to be a well-supported new industry. So stigma. One type of stigma can't be replaced by another one, and we need to work on that. So
in the period of years, we've seen stigma dramatically decline, which is great. I mean, we've been educating people. To which degree is it a licensed producer's job to work with the public and educating the public and what they're using as a medicine?
I think it's very important. We at Hydropothecary have, for example, a 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year client care system. So we don't just sell you the product, we help people. Very often we have people using cannabis for the first time. We have new products that require opening and require use. Obviously, the primary healthcare professional that would have prescribed that product would be the first point of call, but we're there to help patients and understand how to use it, when to use it. Self-titration is something that's very important. Some people who move from dried product inhalation to oils, they're unclear about the need to go low, go slow. So there's that education period. And we also see ourselves having a role in recreational, where you may be able to go to an LCBO or a point of retail, but we'll always have our number on our product, and you can always call us.
Yeah.
And we intend to be 24/7, 365 days
Well,
a year.
and this is something I wanted to get into, because something that remains to this day to be a little bit rare within the LP space, the licensed producers, is that providing those lab analysis, those tests to ensure that the quality for the users there. You guys were one of the few to start that and to really brand into it. So how important is that quality assurance?
I think it's critical. It's not just good enough to have quality assurance.
Yeah.
You need to be transparent about it, because it is a question of trust. And how do you build trust? You open your books, you open your operations to scrutiny,
right.
Public scrutiny. So we were one of the first to start voluntary testing. We have also started putting in our own results. You can go online, and anyone, you don't have to be a patient. Some other companies, like, you have to be patient and you have to dig around their website. We're just one link away from knowing all the results, and even if you're not a client, you have full access to it. And it's very simple. Our client care folks work people through. The label has a lot number, and that lot number directly links to a result, and the results are very readable. We've actually worked with our labs to design a public-friendly result set, so pass, fail, explanations of what the tests were and why we did them. So it's everything from, we're testing for heavy metals, we're testing for bacteria, we're testing for fungal, we're testing for pesticides, we're testing for potency, which is a critical issue because we have a very specific methodology for potency. So unlike other areas where you might be able to get cannabis, with our cannabis, it's down to 0.0001% of exactly how much THC or CBD is in that. So you know yourself, there's no chance of overdosing or underdosing.
Now, we were talking about delivery system previous to coming to air, and one of those things is ensuring, we've all known a friend that, or somebody that is maybe, lack of a better term, overdosed or been a little bit uncomfortable with how much cannabis they've consumed. How difficult is it to ensure that you're getting the proper dosage?
Dosing's always a problem. So we've got a, like, if you look at the traditional way of inhalation of consuming cannabis, how much you're actually getting after you're burning it, how much, your different methodologies of inhalation. So it was always variable, and people essentially self-titrated, and they couldn't understand that. We understand that, edibles is where a lot of people want to go to, the new people to cannabis will want to go to. So we're working very hard to ensure that, all our edibles, even our current sets of oils, are sprayable. We have a product line that's sprayable so that it's very convenient and very easy, and there's no real chance of, getting too much, because there's small little sprays, and you're basically microdosing at that point. We're also working right now in advance of recreation and in advance of other types of edibles in understanding about getting consistency and potency across a product. So if you have a cookie, you want the left side to be equal to the right side. So if you only eat half of it, you're not getting twice as much. So there's a lot of science and a lot of innovation going into that to make sure that we get it right straight off the bat.
Now, quickly, last question to you. In terms of the LP model, we're looking at July as our regulatory date of legalization. What is to be expected for that? And are we on track? Is the LP model on track?
So for LPs, the current sets of LPs, there's a lot of people scaling up, and I think in our own situation we will be ready for recreational. The question will be, I think, mainly on the point of sales. Will the stores be ready? And the LPs don't have control over the stores, and so these are either provincially run stores or licenses to private companies that will have stores. So in Alberta and BC, there's going to be a model that way. So it's very hard to know whether they'll be ready and how many there will be in those situations. But from a scale-up perspective, we're certainly being ready. A little issue that we're still waiting, and we're trying to make sure that we push the government to obtain this, is what exact types of product we will be able to sell. So pre-roll, for example.
How to market it.
Yeah, well, how much is a 1 gram only? Is it 2 gram? How many can we fit in a packet? Lots of regulatory issues that, you can't just automatically, appear overnight, because you have to have calibration of your equipment, you have to do runs, you have to do quality control on those, and it has to be perfect before it gets to the consumer.
And we're almost there. We're almost at 2018. Well, we are at 2018. We're almost in July.
Yep.
Shane, I appreciate your time. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.